I was one of those kids that would like just soup up their Honda Civics thinking it was cool. And my exhaust would make so much noise and yet the car would barely move. I do know in the grand scheme of things, I definitely spent less than 10 grand on building the site, marketing it, etc.
We've been spending a lot of money, millions of dollars spent, and we never spend money on marketing.
If you don't have a good product or service, it doesn't matter how good you are at marketing. You're not going to do well. Apple doesn't do extremely well because of their sales engine, and nor does Tesla.
Anytime I've searched anything SEO related, you're like top 3.
It helps to have a team, but most ideas come from me.
For a lot of people, it's still like dark, art, mysterious practice. Or is it when I'm saying SEO, they're looking at me like I'm saying something in different language.
Neil Patel is more than just a marketing expert. He is a trendsetter, a trailblazer, and a titan in his field. Hailed by Forbes as one of top 10 marketers, recognized by the UN and President Obama as a top entrepreneur, Neil's expertise is unparalleled. His company, MP Digital, is a powerhouse in the industry, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Neil's YouTube channel has amassed over 1 million subscribers, and his podcast, The Marketing School, sees over 1 million listeners each month. From being an SEO specialist recognized globally to helping corporate giants like Amazon and Google optimize their growth, Neil's track record speaks volumes about his expertise and effectiveness.
As a user, whenever you click on a listing, you're not like, man, I'm happy it ranks number 1 because it has the best code. That's why we exist. A lot of people don't want to do all this grunt work. It's a pain in the butt, but it works.
What advice would you give, let's say, to us?
You guys are great hosts, my experience so far.
Well, thank you, Neil. We definitely appreciate that.
That's simple. That's what people are looking for. People who create unique content are the ones who are going to thrive in this environment.
Neil, welcome to the show.
The Avenue of the Strongest is a podcast dedicated to exploring the lives and experiences of the most inspiring individuals from around the world. Each episode features interviews with fascinating guests who share their insights and wisdom on a variety of topics, including education, impact, motivation, health, and learning. Here are your hosts, Anayet Chowdhury and Vlad Suleiman.
Neil, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. Now, is it safe to say to anyone who has ever started their own business and even thought about SEO that they have ran into your blogs, into your videos? Is that safe to say, like every person, at least in America? I'm going to be confident and say yes, but you can.
I don't know if that many people have seen our stuff. A good chunk of people have seen our stuff. That's probably
really because anytime I've searched anything SEO related, you're like literally top 3. And I've read many of your articles. And with that, I want to go ahead and thank you because you have obviously helped many, many businesses from all sizes. Now, I want to kind of take you back to when you were very young. I read your About Me story on your website. I love it. So it looks like you were an entrepreneur at heart from a very young age. You mentioned on your website that you sold CDs and automotive parts for a profit. Is that correct?
This podcast is sponsored by ArgoPrep, an award-winning edtech company serving over 1 million students nationwide. We understand that as parents, you want to ensure that your child receives the best education possible. Say hello to ArgoPrep. With over 15 plus educational awards earned in just the past year, ArgoPrep's platform offers your child video lessons, quizzes, drills, printable worksheets, and more. Best of all, your ArgoPrep subscription comes included with 4 comprehensive digital workbooks that cover all 4 subjects: math, ELA, science, and social studies. Visit argoprep.com today and start your free trial.
That is correct. I got a reseller's permit from the State Board of Equalization, I think it was called, and I was buying car parts for cheaper and selling them for more.
Were you a car guy at that time that knew the parts, or like how did you determine that? That was my question.
I was one of those kids that would like just try to soup up their Honda Civics thinking I was cool and making 100 horsepower car super fast when you really can't make it that fast. You know, what are you going to add? 20 more horsepower, take a 4-cylinder car and make it a little bit faster, but I thought it was super cool. And my exhaust would make just so much noise, and yet the car would barely move.
And where does entrepreneurship come from? Is it was from your parents or from some mentors? From who?
It runs in the family. My mom, my dad not so much, but my mom for sure. all her brothers are business owners, and yeah, that's where I got it from.
So I know you went from Knott's Berry Farm to selling vacuums door to door, and then decided to create your own job board called Advice Monkey after looking at Monster.com's business model. Now, you mentioned that you spent about $5,000 building the job board. Do you remember what you spent that money on initially?
Yeah, so I spent $5,000 building it, and then I actually spent less than $5,000 building it. I don't know the exact amount, maybe five, maybe less, but I know I spent thousands of dollars on the marketing side. That could have been where the five was. It was just so long ago; it's hard to remember all the numbers. I do know, in the grand scheme of things, I definitely spent less than 10 grand on building the site, marketing it, etc. And I paid some marketing firms to help me out. Didn't get results, and I just ran out of money. So it's like, from being broke and frustrated, I had no choice but to learn on my own. I got good at it, started getting tons of traffic, and then boom, all of a sudden my job board started becoming popular, but I was still making no money. I figured out I'm good at the marketing side. I suck at the rest.
Wow. Well, so this kind of question leads me to my next question, which is so important. I think this is a category we fell under while trying to build our SaaS ed tech platform. So here's a situation that so many entrepreneurs can identify with: investing their heart, their soul, their capital into developing a stellar product, yet facing the daunting challenge of effectively marketing it and securing a substantial user base. So I think a lot of us tend to place a disproportionate emphasis on product development, and we sometimes overlook the vital aspect of sales and marketing. What advice would you give to founders that are product obsessed and lack a sales or marketing co-founder? Because that's kind of like, we're like product guys, so we've always been able to create amazing products, but oh man, we suck when it comes to marketing and on the sales side, and we burned millions of dollars of our own money just before we started to make things look better.
So for someone who has a background in marketing, and I'm pretty good at sales, not to toot my own horn, but I'm great at those two things, at least I believe. I'm at least sales within the marketing space. I would actually say what your roles are more important. If you don't have a good product or service, it doesn't matter how good you are at marketing. You're not going to do well. It doesn't matter how good you're at sales. You're not going to do well. You need a great product or service. It doesn't mean that there's not shitty companies out there that aren't doing well, because there actually are a lot of shitty companies that do well because of marketing and sales. But the real way to build a big business is you create a great product or service. That's what it starts with. Apple doesn't do extremely well because of their sales engine, and nor does Tesla. They all do well. Most of these big companies do well because their products were great or revolutionary, or change people's lives in a great way. And I think that's the most important thing when building a business. If you don't have a great product or service, and you're not continually listening to your customers, and you're not continually improving it, you're going to be crushed by your competition. Just a question of when. The second thing is this: marketing and sales is important, but you need to first focus on having a great product or service, and then double down on marketing. Because what a lot of people think is, I'll build it and they will come. And there's a lot of great companies that they built it and people came, but there's so many more examples that we don't hear about, that they built it, it was great, and no one came. So yes, marketing is important, sales is important, but your cornerstone of your company, your heart, is going to be the amazing product or service that you built. The way you care for your customers, and what you're doing to delight them, and making sure you're creating the best experience for them.
I love that. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Vlad.
Speaking about the same question, I think also a lot of people should realize that they should start with MVPs. This is what we realized after several years. I think we already got like 50 published workbooks, perfectly done. We've been spending a lot of money, millions of dollars spent on proofreading, on developing it and everything, and we never spent money on marketing. Yeah, and then we realized, at least create something, test it out with some at least some little budget on the marketing, see if it's something that people like it, and then scale it up.
Well, the big mistake that people make is they wait too long to do their marketing and sales. And if you start early enough, you not only get feedback, but you'll figure out what you need to change to drive revenue. And if you are doing really well on the revenue and sales side, keep doing more of it. And I don't know why people wait. There's never going to be a perfect product. You're never going to be where you want to be. The moment you think you get there, you're going to want to do more other things. And then all of a sudden you're back to the drawing board and, re-engineering or redeveloping. So it's never too early to start marketing and sales. You're building an audience. And I'm with you. I think people try to build the perfect product and do everything instead of just getting something out there.
All right. Okay, now let's speak about the SEO, because for a lot of people it's still like a dark art, a mysterious practice. Or is it when, especially when somebody is just starting their business and they had no idea? I mean, they have no education in tech. And when I'm saying SEO, we need to focus on SEO. They're looking at me like I'm saying something in different language. So I have a couple of questions to those who don't know anything about SEO. So what exactly is SEO and why should business care about it?
Yeah, so SEO, the reason I think it's important is if you look at majority of the clicks that happen on Google, 70+% the last time we checked is going to the organic listings. Now, Google generates $160+ billion USD dollars in ad revenue. Imagine how much traffic can go to those organic results. Imagine the value of those clicks. If people are willing to spend 160 billion, not million, billion dollars, those organic clicks are worth a lot because they convert. Yeah. And if you don't do it, you're missing on a lot of traffic and a lot of revenue, and it's more efficient. See, when you do ads, the moment you stop paying, you get no more clicks. Organic, you keep getting traffic. Maybe not as much as you want, maybe more than you expected, who knows? But you can still generate revenue from it even if you stop spending money on SEO. And SEO is all about optimizing for user experience. There's a lot of factors with SEO, like how good is your code? How good is your content? How fast is your website load? How many other websites link to you? It's kind of like votes. The more websites that link to you, I'm oversimplifying it, but the more websites that link to you, typically the better off you're going to end up ranking. But as a user, whenever you search Google and you click on a listing, you're not like, man, I love this site. I'm happy it ranks number one because it has the best code. As a user, you don't care about that. You care about one simple thing. Did it give you what you're looking for and as quick as possible? And that's the key element. You need to do the other stuff, but that's the last one. That's a key element that I think most businesses lack, is in which they don't focus on the user experience. And when I mean user experience, I'm not just talking about from a design angle, like, oh, this is the placement where we should put this and the navigation should go over here. I'm not talking about UX. I'm talking about user experience, in which are you solving their problem as quick as possible? That's the real key to winning in the long run with SEO.
So it shouldn't be trying to stuff a 2,000 word essay when trying to rank for like what is 42 divided by 3 and making the user scroll all the way down after reading 1,000 words to get that simple answer.
Or is this like, it's so funny. I had a buddy, and I love using this example, and he sells men's clothing and high-end clothing, like not high-end, that's the wrong word, business apparel. He sells men's business apparel. I'm not saying it's low quality. I don't mean to diss him, but business apparel like suits, shirts, ties. So he wanted to rank for tie-related terms, and how to tie a tie gets a lot of traffic. And I was like, dude, delete the 5,000 word article. And it was literally 4,000 to 5,000 words, and it was breaking down all the different ties. I'm like, people just want to see animated GIFs or videos breaking down how to tie a tie, and they want to be able to do it in less than like 60 seconds. No one wants to read a ton of words on how to tie a tie. It's just the reality. And that's what I mean by user experience. Can you solve people's problems as quick as possible? That's who's going to win in the long run.
And it used to be like that, right? Like when it was just internet was just starting, this is when a lot of big essays were working. But right now, videos and GIFs, as you're saying, works better, right?
Correct. Yes. But not for everything, just for that term, because for how to tie a tie, I haven't searched for it in years. I'm searching for it right now, how to tie a tie. So the very top is a video. Next one is ties.com, and it says how to tie a tie, a comprehensive knitting guide. And it's just, there's some text, but it's mainly images, and you pick. So you can say 4 in hand, half Windsor, Kelvin, simple, and you click on it, and it has a video, and it shows some images and steps. Like, that's simple. That's what people are looking for. But if I'm creating an article on Abraham Lincoln's life, right? you can't do that in 100 words or even 1,000 words. So for some things, you do need the 5,000, 10,000, maybe even 20, 30, 50,000 words. But for some things, like how to tie a tie in a specific like Windsor knot, you just may need some images.
And what kind of timeline should we expect? Should newcomers expect, and to anticipate to see some results?
It depends on how old your website is, how much age and links you already have, and how much you've already done. But
Let's say it's
it
just
can range.
from the scratch, new one.
New one, we've seen getting some traction within 6 months. You start really getting traction within a year to 2 years. It really compounds within 3 years. Even a old existing site, you may see some traction within 3 months, but you should see good results within a year plus. And when I mean good results, you're to clarify, when I start saying you're seeing traction in 3 to 6 months, as in you're seeing more clicks, more impressions, you may not be generating a lot of sales, but within a year, you should notice some good improvements.
Would you agree?
Could you please elaborate? Yeah,
go ahead, Vlad.
I just want to a little bit put like clarity. Let's say we have a lot of traffic, right? But it doesn't mean that people will get sales right away, because this is like a separate aspect they need to be able to master, because people coming, but to convert them into sales, this is something different. It doesn't mean that you have 100,000 people comes and all of them will go ahead and buy. So what are the steps to convert them into the customers?
Yes, what you're talking about is conversion rate optimization, right? So whether you do paid advertising or SEO, it doesn't matter. There's no guarantee if you buy a click from Facebook or Google or you rank organically, that person or those 100 people are going to buy anything from you. You got to convince them. You got to sell them. Maybe it's not through a human, but it could be through your website copy, like your text or your images or your video or your landing pages or the way your product or service looks or your reviews or ratings. This is all stuff that can convince them. And you can use a lot of tools out there like Crazy Egg, which will help you optimize and tell you where users are getting stuck, what issues there are, and what you need to change to get more of those visitors to convert. And if you're getting 100 visitors or 1,000 or a million, no matter what the number is, never 100% of them will convert. You're lucky if 1%, 2% convert. Right. In many cases, it's a fraction of a percent. And you got to work your way up to getting your conversion rate up to 1% plus.
Mm-hmm. So good metrics are 1% conversion, and from this conversion,
depends on the industry. Some industries are 2-3%, some are 4-5, but a lot are sub 1%.
Mm-hmm. I got it. So when
it also depends on the offer too. So for example, I'm holding up here, if someone's watching this iPhone, okay? Let's say I'm Apple, all right? Mm-hmm. If I all of a sudden start selling my new iPhones, the iPhone Pro 13, 14, whatever the latest number is, and I'm selling a brand new one, believe it or not, for $100, no catch, you're going to get way more than 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 100 to convert, because people are like, wow, this is normally $1,000. This is a steal. Let me buy up as many as possible. Now, that would be, you can get an exceptionally high conversion rate. You may see 10, 20+% conversions. I don't know the exact percentage, but it would be really high, maybe even higher than that. But Apple's cost to produce that phone is more than $100. So they'd be losing a ton of money on it, right? All I'm getting at is you can get your conversions really, really high depending on a lot of factors. But some of those factors may not make sense for a business, or those variables.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Now let's move a little bit more into more specifics to the next level. So as far as I understand, one of the biggest, I would say, things that people should focus on SEO is to acquire the backlinks. So what are the strategies on that?
Free tools. People are used to paying for tools. If you create free tools and put them up on your website, that's a huge one. You can use tools like Bard or ChatGPT to help you create a free tool and then have an engineer review it and then modify it. Example, you're in the mortgage industry, mortgage calculators. You're in the marketing industry like me. Some marketing tools like A/B testing calculators, or SEO tools like we have UberSuggest or Answer the Public, which helps generate a lot of links. Infographics is another one. Those are just visualizations that help explain something in text. So for example, there's a really cool infographic online that talks about how fast a cheetah runs, and it shows visually how fast a cheetah runs and how a cheetah is able to do so and how it compares to other things. Another really good way is just generate really, really good content. Another really good strategy is we have this tool called UberSuggest, which I mentioned, And there's this feature in that tool which you can use for free. It's called the Backlinks Opportunity Report. You put in your domain name and your 3 of your competitors' domain names. It'll show you everyone who links to your competitors but does not link to you. See, if someone links to one of your competitors, they may like them, they may know someone there, have affinity towards that brand and not yours. But if someone's linking to 3 of your competition, they probably don't have a bias or loyalty to one specific brand. And if you show them how you have better content or infographics or products or services, better reviews or ratings, they may link to you as well. And it's like, for us, that's fishing with dynamite. That's one of the easiest ways, because if someone's willing to link to 3 of your competitors, chances are they're willing to link to you too.
But that's a crazy job, just to find out about these companies and email them and wait until they open up this email. I mean, this is, and plus it's not free, right? You have to pay for it.
No, it's free. You can use the tool for free.
It's free.
And then if you email them, you convince them to link to you. You don't have to exchange any money. But this is why agencies like mine, I have an ad agency called NP Digital where I focus all my time. That's why we exist. A lot of people don't want to do all this grunt work. It's a pain in the butt, but it works. And we do it for them. And it's not just SEO. It's a pain to do things like manage your paid advertising, even with all the AI tools out there. Trust me, it's not perfect and it doesn't solve all your problems. You can buy a lot of traffic, doesn't mean you're going to get a lot of sales. Someone got to figure all that out. Whether it's Facebook ads or email marketing or creating the content. That's why people like my agency are in business.
And what about building your own satellite domain websites, buying backlinks, like dark SEO?
You could do it. It's a waste of time. It's just like when I was a kid, I've been in this industry for over 20 years. So there wasn't as many quote unquote rules, you may call it. You know, this isn't illegal stuff where you go to jail, but there wasn't really rules with a lot of these search engines. Call it 23-ish years ago when I started. And a lot of these tactics, like you mentioned, that I did when I was a little kid, even pre-college, it can get you some results, but it's not long-term. It's just like, why would you take a shortcut and cheat when you know it's not going to last long, when you can just put in the effort, takes a little bit longer to get the results, but then it's more stable, and then you're really building a real business and a real foundation. Just shortcuts in life, in most cases, they're not worth taking. And you got to find, you got to think long term and do stuff that you can build on, versus taking a shortcut and then it only lasting for a week or a month or 2 months and then starting all over and then having to rebuild and going through the same process of rinse and repeating.
I love that.
I have one last question before I pass to you on it. You were speaking about the agency. So for those who listen, how much does it cost? And when should a business consider to hire an agency?
So at our agency, NP Digital, we're global. So a campaign if you hired us in Malaysia, it's much cheaper than the United States. Now, the Malaysia team does marketing for companies in Malaysia, or it could be Apple wanting our help marketing in Malaysia specifically, right? Our office in India isn't us in the United States outsourcing to India. It's our team in India is working on companies in India and helping them with their marketing. So the cost per region varies drastically because of things like labor, currency, GDP, potential revenue and ROI from these marketing campaigns. So it really ranges a lot. But let's say you want to take the United States. We've pitched companies in the United States for 8 figures, and we've also pitched companies for 5 figures. Now, we make majority of our revenue from enterprise being, big corporations like Adobe and Microsoft, and they have many different divisions, many different countries and languages. So you land and expand and you continue to upsell. Right. But what I'm getting at here is, a lot of the times a large corporation may come to us and say, hey, we want to work with you, but we only have 1 month, here's 50 grand. And then the next month or 2 months later, we'll work on creating a year engagement. And sometimes we start small and land and expand. It really varies on the scope and what they're looking for and how much work it is on our end. But most agencies, they're not operating at 30, 40% margins. They're operating at, 10%, 5% on the low end, 20% on the high end. And they're just focusing on doing really, really good work. So it's not a factor of how much it costs. It's what do you want to get done? And there's some people where their cost basis is low and they can do stuff for a few thousand a month. That's not us. And then there's some people that are more expensive, which is us, but we tend to do a really good job, and we tend to work with a lot of large brands who are trying to do some big stuff globally. Like with CNN, when they expand to Brazil, we helped them drive 1 billion page views from organic in 1 year. You know how hard it is to drive 1 billion page views from organic, non-paid advertising in 1 year? I hope we win some awards for that. That was one of the hardest projects we had, and we blew the numbers out of the water. We didn't even think we were gonna hit 1 billion. Now, when we started, the goal wasn't 1 billion; it was much less, but it just kept going because we were getting tremendous traction, right? So it's it depends on what a company's trying to achieve. To do that and hit big numbers, even like a 500 million, which was, I think the goal was either 500 million or 600 million. And we felt confident that we can hit that, but we exceeded it. It's not easy to do it. Costs more money versus if someone wanted to hit 1,000 page views in a whole year.
Right. I love that. I want to go ahead and talk briefly about AI. Obviously, with AI becoming more sophisticated, do you think it's going to play a much larger role in content creation when it comes to SEO? And if so, how can marketers prepare for this shift?
So you're pretty much saying wait, repeat it. Did you say is SEO going to play a larger role in content or AI or?
No, it is AI. So right. So are we going to see a lot more with all these tools?
We already are.
We already are.
So we're already seeing a lot of people create content text-based through AI, image-based, videos, deep fakes, whatever you want to end up calling it. Songs like The Weeknd and Drake doing a song collaboration because of AI. But what search engines and social platforms want is they want unique content, unique human created content. Stuff that appeals to people, both emotionally, is new, fresh, isn't regurgitated information that they're not spinning up based on old information that their AI has. And people who create unique content are the ones who are going to thrive in this environment. Because think about it this way. You know how many millions of posts are posted on Facebook on a daily basis? You know how much stuff people really see? Most of it gets drowned out because it sucks. Creating a ton of crap AI content isn't going to help you stand out. It's just going to make you get drowned out more. But when everyone's doing AI content, creating fresh information and sharing it with people, stuff that they've never read about or seen or watched before, that's what's going to do really well. That's what people are craving. Google calls it EAT, EEAT. So it stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. They want you to sprinkle in those ingredients into content to really make it stand out. Hard to do that with AI.
Oh, that's a great point. And for those people who are using AI, are there any ethical considerations that or any kind of thoughts about that?
Yeah, and I always tell people the same answer. I get asked that a lot. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what's legal and ethical. It's all debatable. You can go on both sides of the fence. Depends what content you're creating on AI. Are you ripping someone's off? Or are you just having them create something that's new? I let the lawyers worry about that. The way I look at AI is if you're going to use AI, have a human go in there and make it better and modify it. Maybe have AI do half the job for you and then have the human do the other half.
I love that. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Flat.
I know that you're creating a lot of content across different platforms, blog, podcast, YouTube, everywhere I go to search for SEO, I see your face. So I want to know, how do you manage all this? Do you have a team, or how do you record? How do you get fresh ideas of recording something new? Where do you get the inspiration?
I think we're at 700 and something people, 750 at our agency. So it helps to have a team, and but most ideas come from me. Wow. I just read a lot. When you read a lot, you end up learning a lot, and it gives you a lot of ideas.
You reading books, or are you reading like online, online?
Online articles. I'm lucky enough to have the privilege and time to spend hours a day reading.
So you read, you draft out some ideas, you shoot the videos, and you give it to your team, and they post everything and edit it out and all the stuff.
Yes. They come to my house, they film, I don't have to do much, and they edit, they post it, they put in the captions, they post whatever they want on a daily basis, and I just keep coming up with ideas and creating the content.
Okay. What advice would you give to, let's say, to us? So we started this podcast beginning of this year, right? So what are the best strategies to promote it, to push it to the public?
I'm going to give you one because this one's going to work better than all the others. How many listeners do you have on a monthly basis?
20 to 30,000 now.
Go hit up other podcasts and do a marketing trade. So in their podcasts, they'll promote yours, and in your podcast, you'll promote theirs. It doesn't matter if they have more than you or less. You'll just do a trade of impressions. So if you have 20,000 impressions, you'll give them 20,000 impressions for you to promote their podcast and them to promote yours. Keep doing that with a lot of podcasts. You'll quickly get up to 100,000 and then 500,000.
So basically just cold emailing, cold approaching, and like finding this podcast, email them and ask this, right?
Yes, or call them or go to events and meet them. I'm telling you, it's not that hard. A lot of people will do it. And I can already tell you, I do a lot of podcast interviews. You guys ask good questions. The content's good. Has nothing to do with me. Has mainly to do with the host. I think you guys are great hosts from my experience so far. You can get way more listeners than 20,000.
Well, thank you, Neil. We definitely appreciate that. And with that being said, Neil, we have one last question for you before we conclude this interview, which is, Neil, it's my favorite question to ask. Everyone knows you for SEO, but I really love to get to know the guest and their personal story. So that's why I kind of started with that. I want to end with that note as well, which is, who has been one of the most inspiring or strongest person in your life, and what lessons have you learned from them?
So it's not probably going to be inspiring for most people, but it was very inspiring for me. My uncle, his name is Nitin Shah. He's a doctor. And I remember him used to tell me when I was younger as an entrepreneur, when things are going really well for you, just remember someone else has it much better than you. And when things are going really bad for you, just remember there's other people who have it much worse than you. And as an entrepreneur, you go through so many ups and downs. A lot of people don't really realize that until they're in it. And some of them are really hard moments or scary moments, and some are really excited. But you need to be level with the emotions and you need to keep pushing forward. And that's really helped me get really far in life. And especially when you're starting off, there's a lot more pain in the beginning years than later on, because eventually over time you end up learning from your mistakes and you end up hopefully not repeating the same ones over and over again. So it gets you to a decent place in life. But it's just it's a grind, mental grind, especially in the early years, and it's not easy. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 something years, and if my kids don't want to be entrepreneurs, I'm like, great, go enjoy your life. You're sick, you got to work. Your competition's still working. Christmas doesn't matter. When you're starting off, you don't have enough money, resources. You're putting in the hours. Everything else pushed aside. So it can be tough. And it was easy for me because I was younger when I started off. I give tip my hat to the people who do it when they have kids and starting off that journey. It's not easy.
I agree with you. I'm really happy that we started early, where I started in college. Thank God for that, because if I had to do it all over again, honestly, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. It's not possible.
Yes.
So with that being said, Neil, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for that insight. But most of all, thank you for all those years of sharing amazing content on your website, on your blog. And we look forward to seeing many more videos that you'll be posting to really help, the big people, the corporate giants, but also all the small businesses. And I'm sure businesses over the years have gotten extremely valuable information from your website. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks for having me.